so far, but I can't lose it.
Let's be innovative. Let's challenge the norm. Let's raise the bar. Let's be the elite.
To be the best, one must beat the best. Ovals, road courses, the streets of iconic cities, race after race, the top sim racing IndyCar stars will battle it out. In sim racing, it doesn't get any better than this. This is their battleground, for the checkered flag, for the glory, for the right to say they are the best. The cars and stars of the Lionheart IndyCar Series, presented by Butt Kicker, are ready to race.
races into the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series, two title favorites have stepped up. Under the night lights of Homestead, Miami in a caution-free race, the challenger Philip Kraus took victory in a statement to the four-time champion Adam Blocker. But on the streets of Long Beach, Blocker returned to victory lane with his 30th career win to fire back. The series returns to 1.5-mile ovals for round 3 today in a race that is bound to see plenty of strategy. This is Kentucky, and this is Omar's Kentucky 200. Hello everyone and welcome back to RaceSpot TV for coverage of the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series presented by ButtKicker. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, alongside, as always, with the one, the only Justin Prince, as we get set to go racing for what is going to be an exciting 134 laps here at the Legacy Kentucky Speedway. Let's dive straight into our ButtKicker pre-race show, because JP, last time it was Blocker versus Kraus. Kraus controlled all but the last 15-20 laps of the race. One mistake saw him give the victory to Adam Blocker.
And just emphasize the importance of hitting your marks at a track like Long Beach, where if you have one slip up on cold tires, one lock up of the brakes, it can change your entire complexion of the evening. And he's seen that early on in a race where he looked to be in a strong chance to hold up Adam Blocker. And of course, as we've seen, Blocker set sail afterwards. But Kentucky's a different kind of beast because it's a track that can really emphasize the challenges of the bumps. And drivers have emphasized in the past, there's a reason Turn 3 can be one of the most difficult in all of oval racing in the United States.
It's a bit of a staple to come here to the legacy version of Kentucky and IndyCar Lionheart competition, one of the few legacy tracks that we do visit over the course of the campaign. There's your look at your Next Level Racing Series schedule. In a couple of weeks' time, our first Triple Crown of the season. It will be a weekend special presentation, April 16th. Can't wait to go to the Tricky Triangle, but plenty of races still lie in store for us. Here's a look at your ButtKicker driver standings, where it's a private label Team Hype 1 and 2. Adam Blocker is closing in after that victory last time out, after breaking the streak of top fives in our season opener that dated back to September of 2020. Van der Sant's in the mix. Jason Brophy makes it 5 of the private label Team Hype cars inside of that top 5. Here's a look at your team standings presented by HyperX, and the private label Team Hype train continues to roll on JP. Powell's Light Adrenaline close, now aided by Adam Blocker being a part of that team rather than running by himself. Give a shout out though to MadWorks Motorsports. Speedway Series competition might not be going exactly the way they wanted. Retro Series competition, same thing, not going exactly the way that they wanted. But they're doing great here in this IR18, the premier competition in Lionheart sanctioned body competitions.
Yeah, they've shown some good pace so far. At times, it's just been a matter of survival because drivers like Matt Taylor, Chris Fowler in particular, they've been in conversations for the race leads at some of the ovals this season. Then they proceed to be involved in the attrition as the big ones strike. And it's just a matter of breaking the mantra on, say, Chris Fowler's car, where it was when the paint was debuted by the group for this season, Fowler had the name cursed on the side along the monocoque. It seems like the whole group has been cursed. Or whether it's been Michael O'Brien with the word crash being involved in some of the incidents. Matt Taylor looks to be a hero though tonight. This is a track that he might excel at tonight.
Very excited to see what things have in store for them. They'll be racing again tomorrow in the Lionheart Retro Series. Here's a look at your rookie standings, and because Phil Kraus leads the driver standings, you'd think he'd lead these rookie standings presented by ButtKicker, and you'd be right. Almost 40 points clear of Alexander Van der Sant. Caleb Bensi in the mix, Adriano Pinheiro, 2 poles in a row. Will he make it 3 in a row? We'll find out very, very shortly. The Alcantech NHR boys split by just 1 point there. Malechka in 7th, Alexis Newsom, the one and only female champion in Lionheart competition, sits in 8th. AJ Musselman and Kaiten Bomersbach round out the top 10 here. Let's dive into our Gomez Sim Industries series details. Season 10 of the Lionheart Racing Series. In the 9th year of the Lionheart Racing Series. Got my words mixed up there. Season 10 of the Lionheart IndyCar Series. But we're driving the Dallara IR18 with a custom fixed setup built by RaceSpot's own Andrew Kinsella. In-car tools will be adjustable. The front, the rear, anti-roll bars to tighten and loosen up the car on both corners of the car itself. You've got the weight jacker as well that will move it along. We also have seen, JP, that it's not just about the race and dialing in what you do with the tools, but qualifying as well. Knowing how to adjust the car to go as quickly as possible really can put you in a good position to run yourself into HyperX victory lane.
And it's been a discussion point even in stock car racing too with the fixed setups, where if you know how to make the right call in terms of how much fuel you put in, that's critical as well. When it comes to the IndyCar side, with the ability to adjust the ARB, the ability to adjust yourself for the respective corners, that's so critical to make sure you get that balance right to be able to be quick in the way you're most comfortable in, Arjuna. And if you don't get that balance right, even the difference of a couple tenths of a second, and as we've seen in this history of the series, a couple tenths of a second is the difference usually between first and 30th in starting spots.
$10,600 in cash and prizes. Your champion wins an X-Level Racing GT Track cockpit, as well as a wheel from Gomez Sim Industries. Only a couple of weeks away from that first Triple Crown of 2022. Let's dive into our Moser Racing event details. It's a 9th trip to the Bluegrass State, but the race has finished under caution 4 of the previous 8 times. Will that repeat itself today? That is something to keep your eye on. Pole has actually never converted to victory, and the driver that has led the most laps has only won twice. The most lead changes in this race, 25. Average cautions, 5. I think we're in for a rather interesting race here. Remember, JP, caution-free to start the season. It became a fuel mileage game there. We think it might become a fuel mileage race here tonight.
And especially when you consider the DW12 chassis race with the Speedway Series last year, where drivers like Alexander Van de Sent tried to stretch the mileage. He was the only one who could make it 45 laps that time here at Kentucky. That was under the lights, though. Today, it could be intriguing how it fares out with the IR18, with that ability to try and save and stretch the gas, because as we've seen, that ability to cut out that extra pit stop was able to give, in the case of the Speedway Series, a 2-second advantage by the end of the race while on fumes for Van de Sent. The question is, can anyone repeat that tonight?
I think you're right. I think that is very much something to be considering here today. You get a look at the cars out on track for practice. Let's quickly show you the weather conditions that these drivers are having to deal with. It's fairly warm out on track, but again, it's the wind that is the intriguing thing to me. 7-mile-an-hour gusts of winds. Note the time as well, JP. Just ticked past 4 p.m. here at the virtual Kentucky, the virtual Sparta, Kentucky. By the time we get the race started, probably 4:15 or so, by the time we finish this race, we're not going to be into the night. We might be into sunset. Those temperatures will drop, and knowing how that's going to affect the car, knowing how it's going to affect the tires, will be something that the drivers that have done the most practice will be the most adept at.
Indeed, especially knowing how to maximize that car once the track conditions get a bit cooler, that grip level goes up, but the speeds in turn likely to go up to be able to try and stretch that mileage. Keep in mind, last year, a lot of the races held in Kentucky and Speedway Series, or rather in Lionheart competition in general, Arjuna, were under the lights, so a bit of a difference in conditions in turn, which will really intensify some of the grip levels being a little bit lower now at a track that is fairly slippery in Legacy, Kentucky.
Well, we're here today to celebrate the life of Sharon Shari Boggs, also known as Oma. Born on November 23rd in 1941 here in Kentucky, eventually settled in New Jersey, and a person that helped so many young people over the years. A teacher, a volunteer, inducted into the Hackettstown Medical Center Hall of Fame, and the head volunteer for the Hackettstown, New Jersey pajama program. Collected over 1,600 sets of pajamas and 1,300 books for those in need. A volunteer in so many different ways. Loved tennis, loved kayaking, loved hiking, yoga, and walking. Known as the old lady walking through Hackettstown, making friends all amongst the land. Her best friend, though, was her daughter, Kim. Shari, known as Oma, aka grandmother in German, battled cancer for 5 years before losing that fight June 28, 2017. Today, we race for Oma, and a tradition going back now to Season 6 of this Lionheart IndyCar Series. It's something that we love to do, and if Mark Ormack and family are watching, our thoughts are with you here today. Qualifying, though, is underway, and again, this might be just a vital, important chance for drivers to put themselves, if not at the front of the field, towards the front of the pack. The average number of lead changes at this track, 17, but we've seen as low as 9 going back to Season 1, JP. I really think that given what we saw last year where Connor Harrington led 81 laps on his way to HyperX victory lane, started in 6th, starting at the front might just be very important.
Yeah, because keep in mind, starting towards the very back, you potentially put yourself at risk of being 15 or so seconds behind by the time you get towards that estimated pit window for tonight. You want to have that ability to not just save if need be, to try and stretch on the gas if it goes green for a majority of the way. You also want Arjuna that opportunity to be able to have said track buffer time to be able to make sure it works and you're able to hold on for the spot. You don't have that time on track tonight. It's going to be a tough hill to climb to make your way through the pack unless you try some strategy.
Here's a look at a man that always seems to struggle in qualifying as Ryan Otis goes up to the top with a 24.520. Barrett Rolf's teammate Bomas Back has gone to second, but Barrett Rolf, more than almost a second off the pace, cuts down to the apron in a vital qualifying for him. He'll come across the line and put himself up into third, but with just 13 times on the board, JP, lots more contenders yet to come and stake their claim to the pole position here today.
And keep in mind, when it came to last year's running, it actually finished under caution with Connor Harrington, of course, taking that checkered flag. Remember, he called it one of his most special victories in his sim racing career to be able to give Private Label Team Hype its first team win in Lionheart Racing Series competition. I'm keeping my eye on those drivers tonight, in particular the 44, knowing how things go. But you see the fuel burn already being done by the 56. Pinheiro looking to add to that pole total so far.
Pole record, consecutive pole record in Lionheart IndyCar competition is 5. That goes almost back to now Season 4, Season 5 of this series, as Jay Brandt will go to the top with a 24.502. Pinheiro still works his way on lap number 1. See the line that he's running, still not punching it full throttle as he rounds himself through turn 3 out of turn 4. This is when he'll turn the wick up, maximum attack for one final flyer in qualifying. Watch the hands here as he minimizes the distance. JP trying to get as aggressive as he can through the corner.
And it's a very bumpy turn 1 and 2. To be able to stick along the yellow lines, it's difficult to stay down there. Then turn 3 all the way to turn 4. So many different angles. Some drivers prefer to paint the yellow line. Others prefer a lane up when it comes to Legacy Kentucky. But Pinheiro just able to hold on to the apron. Does that saving help him? He gets up to second. Alexis Newsom, though, topped him.
Tyler Graf goes to third. Pinheiro, for the first time in his Lionheart career, won't start from the front, at least for now, locked into the outside of the front row. Here comes Alexander Van der Sant, still on what will be his first timed attempt. Does seem as though lap 2, the fast time, less than 60 seconds left to go in qualifying. Blocker only going 6th best. We'll talk more about the conditions he's racing under later tonight. Kraus goes up to 4th. Van der Sant gets his second lap underway right now. Slowest of all the times recorded so far, but again, we expect the wick to be turned up. Let's turn our attention first to his teammate, though, Andrew Kinsella, who's a little bit up in front of him on the racetrack, all the way down in 27th, finished second 12 months ago, looking to go one better at a track that he's won at before. 24.477, not good enough for pole, it's good enough for second. Van der Sant only good enough for 16th position, less than a 10th off the pace, but look at the margins in qualifying.
Yeah, that is less than a 10th of a second back, and what did I say about that margin? The difference between 2/10 is 1st to 30th. Guess what? That margin's even tighter tonight. The drivers have just finished within 0.18 seconds for the top 31 spots.
It's time to do it once more. 134 laps at the Legacy Kentucky Speedway. Let's go trackside for round 3 in your 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series. And on pole position, it is Alexis Newsom with a 24.468. that locks herself to the front of this field for the second time in her Lionheart career. Robert Malechka will be alongside with a late qualifying dash to put himself in a great spot on the outside of the front row. Andrew Kinsella, Adriano Pinheiro share row 2. Great qualifying there for Andrew Kinsella. Jason Brophy, 4th last year in this race, but starting a lot better position up in 5th. Tyler Graf completes the top 6. Phil Krause, James Brandt, 7th and 8th with the championship leader inside on row 4. Caleb Benzie and Dustin Wardlow complete the top 10. Adam Blocker not racing at home, racing from a hotel room in Indianapolis, where he's ready to go testing with the NTT IndyCar Series once more. Has some work to do from 11th. He's inside your former Lionheart Retro Series champion, Ryan Otis. Andrew Marquez and race winner 12 months ago, Connor Harrington share row 7, while 15th goes to Joe Branch, 16th to Kite Bomersbach. Michael O'Brien and Alexander Van der Sant, 17th and 18th, while to round out the top 20, Matt Houston and Barrett Rolfe, less than a 10th between 1 and 20 in the field. The Muscle Man in 21st, with 22nd going to Lionel Kalisto, who had an impressive charge last time at Long Beach. Stefan Larkamp, Mitchell Riggs, 23rd and 24th. Bradley Sexton, Jason Galvin, 25th and 26th. Galvin coming off a podium here 12 months ago with Matthias Kraus and Chris Fowler, row 14. Row 15, Adam Fraser and Chris Lanini to sign out the top 30. With Mike Rigney, Alex Gouillon, Matt Taylor, the final cars setting lap times on the board. Luis Gonzalez Nunez, Tony Schowen, Paul Jenkins through the 36 cars, ready to rock and roll here today. And as the cars get ready to file their way off, let's dial you through your featured onboard cameras for today's action. With the Omar's Kentucky 200 onboard camera celebrating the life of Shari Boggs, ride around with Andrew Kinsella.
Tonight with the NLR on board, it's Ryan Otis. Take your racing to the next level. Visit nextlevelracing.com.
Chris Fowler has the Moser Racing onboard camera, redefining sim racing. Go further, go faster with Moser Racing. Visit moserracing.com.
The last featured onboard cameras is the HyperX onboard with Alexander Van der Sant. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game.
134 laps on the board. Strategy is bound to make an appearance here today. Fuel chat, fuel window, about 40 or so laps, I should say. 50 or so if you're saving fuel. We're bound to see some aggressive calls on the strategy. 2 different winners so far in 2022. Will round 3 see a 3rd different winner? We're ready to go at the Omar's Kentucky 200. Alexis Newsom in control of the field. We're racing in Sparta, Kentucky. A nice clean start at the front of your field, 3 wide with Connor Harrington in the background as he tries to work his way past Adam Blocker, but good clean start through the field. Pinheiro's looking now aggressive to try and get past Andrew Kinsella, but Newsom leads lap number 1.
And it looked like Andrew Kinsella very uncomfortable in the aero wash. Washed right up the truck and on the bumps in turn 3, and notice that really checked up the run back, and that's going to be a major talking point tonight, Arjuna. Trying to manage that aero wash here at this circuit in that corner. Multiple lines you can take, yes, in turns 3 and 4, but you have to find that clean air to make sure you rotate that nose.
Some fighting going on further back. I do think you should expect to see some conservatism at the start of this race as drivers realize that if we go green like we did to kick off the season, we'll have a fuel strategy race going on. Connor Harrington getting squeezed by Caleb Benzie. Opened the door for Ryan Otis and Adam Blocker to come and have a look.
Few drivers indeed trying to pick up some valuable track position. Others not the greatest of qualifying performances. I think they're just trying to settle things out in. By the way, you may have noticed the backdrop. Adam Blocker showing the difficulty of racing via cell phone connection.
Bit of history about that as well. 12 months ago, Jason Brophy raced on a cell phone connection. Didn't qualify, or rather did qualify, but then started on pit lane. Was able to work his way up to 4th. Blocker looking for something different, actually borrowing a wheel and pedal set from his teammate Robert Malechka. Of course, the 2024 NTT IndyCar 2.4-liter engines undergoing testing to kick off this week. He'll be alongside with Junkos as they get ready for the road course at Indy by doing what is now a solo test session there. A couple of other teams pulling out of that test session. Connor Harrington still side by side with the Candyman as he tries to work his way past on that outside line. We are seeing you can run that outside line. You're not always going to clear, and look at how Wardlow reticent to try and cut down to the apron, and he gets past Harrington to 9th.
You drivers, though, already emphasized that the apron could be hot lava tonight. It's not a very comfortable transition, Arjuna, especially after about 15 laps on the tires. If you end up going too hard on that bump down, hitting that suspension down, it might actually spin a couple drivers out. I wouldn't be surprised to see drivers avoid this apron compared to the new Kentucky, which has that very intriguing yellow line mark for the apron.
Bit of battling just inside the top 20. Marquez and Kalisto, Bombers back and Branch in front as Barrett Rolfe was already up 5 positions. We say this all the time, but Barrett Rolfe needs to get his qualifying sorted because it's not always going to be possible to charge his way forward as he looks to go around the outside of Van der Sande. Great move there, but at the front of the field, Pinheiro gets past Kinsella for 3rd.
And I think that was a move coming for a while with how Kinsella was starting to struggle a bit, but also might be on that save strategy. Wonder if Pinheiro's maybe thinking go a little bit more aggressive, maintain the pace with Newsom and Letchka the third, knowing their history of working together in the past, last year in particular, because it's also been discussed where when it came to 2021 in particular, staying within that draft of the top 4 or so was very critical, as talked about by drivers after that run.
Yeah, and something to remember as well is drivers in our first race of the season weren't really aware that it was going to be a strategy game until about 20 laps into the race when they got the realization that, oh wait, we might just go caution free. Now at least they've got that expectation in their head as Alexis Newsom will lead lap number 9 of this 134 lap race. Malechka's in a great spot if you ask me. Going up high to save the tires is going to burn a little bit more fuel than maybe he'd expect as well, but you can see the single file train that's been formed inside of the top 10 right now, JP. We're seeing some significant separation in your field. The 36 cars now split by almost half a lap here.
It's almost a near carbon copy of the Speedway race we keep referring to because guess which 2 broke away at the start of that race? Newsom and Letchka the third when they were teammates last season for Factory Back. They're trying to do the same thing, albeit without the chance for the swap. But the main trend that also popped up that race, the start of the pit road struggles on entry for Newsom. Newsom's been able to keep it clean, though, up at the very front compared to some who have slipped back a little bit.
But you're talking about the Speedway Series, correct, JP?
Yes, that is in the Speedway Series referring to. Remember, there was all that struggle for a few months with Newsom on entry in pit lane and several times speeding.
Yeah, you got me a bit confused for a sec there because I was thinking, wait, she didn't run in the IndyCar Series here, but yeah, Speedway Series, you're right. Riding on board with Houston, as you see, he's got some separation behind him as in front of him, Galvin working onto the back of the third of the Ascari Autosport machines. Mitchell Riggs rides in 21st position. You can see some further fighting up in front of him as well as they are starting to be a bit more aggressive here in the pack, but this is where you start to get a bit concerned about losing track of those in front of you. Kalisto and Branch side by side, almost 7.5 seconds behind your leader.
And that's the difficult part when it comes to IndyCar racing on the ovals with the R18. You battle 2 alone side by side. It scrubs off speed for both drivers potentially. You end up potentially losing the full second to the drivers in front of that respective tow. That's also very valuable. So you need to be very tactical with it. You need to be able to find a way to clear by quickly. You spend too much time fighting, you're losing the suction of the drivers ahead. For example, Kinsella, he's driving back meanwhile in the 25-1s compared to the leaders running as high as 24-8s.
Do you remember though that there is now that ability to use the maps of the engine to save a bit of fuel? You have map 1 through 5 and fuel, map 1 being full blast, map 5 being green flag fuel save. You have 6 and 7, which are road course throttle maps in effect. 8 is your caution map, so that's something to think about. I think Kinsella is setting in for the long haul here. Brophy was another one that talked to me about the strategy game here and being recognizing how early on you can't afford to slip backwards.
Hold on, trouble coming down the front straightaway. One driver just got massively loose. Chris Lanini and company, how about a dodge? The 92 had a massive moment off turn 4, and at least 5 cars nearly ran into him.
That was a close call. We stay green, but you can see the momentum check up here as they're all fighting effectively to not be last in line, but they're now 14 seconds off from your leader. Bit by bit, they are falling into what might be traffic consideration. Something, JP, that's going to be interesting to see because we haven't seen much of how it's going to fight with the leader. I think Malechka's being conservative. Maybe he'll be aggressive once we get into this Hornet's nest at the back of the field.
Absolutely. By the way, the driver referred to, remember the mention of how on the monocoque you have the word cursed on Chris Fowler's machine? Commentator's curse finds a way to hit at one point or another sometimes. Tony Schowen sent the 20 sideways. That's what caused the checkup. And some of the apologies for some of the drivers who had to go scattering back there. Gonzalez Nunez, Lanini amongst those. That has lost 27th on back the trap, though, to a vast majority of the pack.
Now, is it really commentators cursing if they're the ones that put it on the side of their cars? Here's a look at it. Schowen looking down to the inside, but you'll know he actually doesn't go down to the yellow line. And that is wonderful car control from the 20 and good heads-up driving from those behind to recognize the situation, back it down just in time. Let's grab a look on board and watch the hands here. This is the thing that you'll want to note. You'll see the bit of contact, watch the wibble wobbling as he tries to figure out where the balance of the car is. That is stupendous car control.
Most times when you do the weeble wobble like that, you're usually going all over the racetrack. Fowler did a terrific job of maintaining stability despite going and having the weeble wobbles, absolutely. In reference, by the way, to that curse part, it usually doesn't become a curse until you mention it's a curse.
Well, so are we putting the blame on you, JP? You're the one who brought it up then.
Retroactively, yes.
No, well, Lewis McClay doesn't believe in commentators' curses. He just believes in bad driving, but that's the opposite. That was great driving from Chris Fowler. Definitely not cursed, at least in that regard. And Barrett Rolfe, you don't have to worry about qualifying if you smack yourself into the outside wall like that. Somehow, we are not under yellow just yet. I don't think this will hold. If it does, well, this is remarkable. Look at how conservative he's now trying to get down low. We'll stay green. Incredible.
Oh, he's got to get down quickly, though. The race leaders are the next ones up, just out of time. And spins into the pit lane for good measure. So Barrett Rolfe's night and start of the season going disastrous. But I think it was just to make sure Wade Jacker, possibly Arjuna, just got that snap loose off too.
Let's take a look at it right now. Barrett Rolfe has taken the toe back to pit lane from within the pit lane as well. Yeah, he gets a snap. He gets a big snap, and when you're that close to the wall, there's only so much that you can do to avoid running yourself up high. You can already see he's balancing that car on the ragged edge, and, well, unfortunate for Barrett Rolfe, one of the Ascari Autosport machines now out of contention. 6/10 the gap at the front of your field, and 1.2 back to Pinheiro, who has Jason Brophy chasing him down. Kinsella's been falling off. He's 1.2 behind Brophy. We stay green. Not really. Might just mean the strategy games become even more interesting. Battling back here for 23rd, 24th. Battling as well for what is now 7th position. Tyler Graf looking outside of Jay Braun.
Tyler Graf, in fact, losing ground to Jay Brand, who runs that bottom side. Give good credit to Tyler Graf. This has been one of his strongest starts to a race all season so far, where he's usually been trying the different strategies or more to the mid-pack. Tonight he got good track position. He's been able to maintain that track position for the most part.
He is down 2, but I mean, all things said and done, it could be worse. I tell you what, while things are going well, let's have a good quick shout at Andrew Kinsella, who is also down 2 but running in 5th. Last time by was one of the faster cars inside of this top 10, but I do think he's playing a bit of the strategy game. He's our Moser Racing driver profile, the man behind all the setups for the 3 Lionheart sanctioned competitions. Also now a colleague here at RaceSpot, one of the few to win on debut in Lionheart competition. That was back at Homestead, the season opener of Season 5, the last season with the DW12, 112 starts, 74 top 10s, 54 top 5s, pretty consistent there as well. The thing that Kinsella always struggles with, JP, is qualifying. 2 poles, 10 victories. That tells a tale. As yellow flag flies, we'll get back to that. What's happened here? Luis Gonzalez Nunez mixed up in something.
Simrace 24/7 machine, turns 1 and 2. Bounced off somebody's side pod, believe, in Mateus Kraus. And one of the major difficult parts, Arjuna, is sticking it to the bottom here at Kentucky. You get yourself too tight, especially with the potential of the aero wash. It usually leads to big boom things, and for Nunez, he had one of the hardest hits of the season to the car.
Grab a look, as maybe we'll see the first cycle of pit stops here as well. I am expecting that, 30 laps into the run. Now, 100 laps to go. It's a one stop from here if you save fuel, which for someone like Malechka was already on their mind. Let's have a look here, right side of your screen, as to what happened here. Nunez down low, runs up the track, and then, oh, that's a vicious impact into the wall for him.
Looked tight on in the first place on the entry, and then you have that car just up the road a little bit, just takes a little bit of that edge, knows straight up that he's going tight. The second to make contact, you see with the wheel, I think that may have actually broke something on his end too.
Big incident, and likely going to be day done for our second car in today's race. There they come all down onto pit road. Why are we surprised? Puffs of smoke going on, but not entirely unexpected. So here we go, field onto pit lane. Remember, 134 laps, the fuel window flat out at about 41, 42 laps. You're saving fuel, you're in the draft, you can likely extend it up to 50 laps. So from here, very much could be a one-stop race, as Houston will have that primary pit spot to get herself up on the jacks. 4 fresh Firestone tires, fill up the tank of fuel. Harrington rolls early. It does look as though it's going to be Newsom winning the race off pit road. Brophy almost pips Pinheiro, but just loses out. Blockers behind Kraus. Van der Sant alongside Bensi is 3 wide further back. Nice clean cycle of pit stops.
Nice and solid to say the very least, but you know what he said, the fuel saving games are going to be very significant now, to say the least. To make sure drivers can get it on a one-stop, it's tight, to say the very least, from this point. And I think that's why maybe Matt Taylor stayed out that time by. He may be thinking, I don't want to risk running out of gas and try on this call attempt. Risk a bit of track position. He was towards the back either way. Come down this time by, top off. Keep in mind, he didn't get the lead lap in scoring, so this did not count for him in terms of a point mark.
You say that, but at the same, by the same token, coming in this time by means he's got a little bit more fuel in the tank compared to everyone else.
Exactly.
JP.
Exactly why I think he's doing it. Has that extra lap. Yes, it's a little bit of a risk, but you still end up having that extra lap in turn to be able to work with in the tank compared to some of those who may be thinking, okay, should I top off? And might not be able to do so until the next pace lap by. He just came in time to avoid, I think, the pit road closed penalty if he didn't come that time.
It's the first caution of the race. First caution of the season as well, JP.
Believe it or not, it hasn't felt like that way, it seems.
It's been a crazy season, right? Even Homestead, which went green, you had Michael O'Brien causing a bit of chaos. Plenty of side-by-side action. You know, Long Beach is Long Beach, so it always is going to be somewhat interesting. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't feel like this is the first caution that we've had in 2022.
Yeah, in regards to the IndyCar series, absolutely. There have been big ones, indeed, in Speedway in particular, that come to mind. But it's the type of season so far where you never know when you're going to end up picking up attrition. Keep in mind, this is also the second oval race this season. So now it's also that type of a night where you have to really think about the mileage. Absolutely. Because now, some drivers may have been thinking, okay, I'm going to try the 3-stop, try and push hard. A few drivers may have been thinking, maybe take a page out of the Van der Sant book, go 45-45, try and stretch to the end. That's about a 5-lap buffer to the major save. Now everybody's on the aggressive save, and this is going to get very intriguing to see who's willing to push and who's willing to save a lot and risk a little track position. Of note, Fowler, Jenkins, along with Taylor again, all topping off again.
Don't hate the call. Really do not hate it, because by the time we go back to green, it will be, what, 102 laps to go? Something like that?
Yeah, 102 laps to go this time by when the green flag flies. I'm still nervous, though, on that mark for anyone who didn't take the top off there.
Well, we are talking about the race going green from here, JP.
You never know, but you also have to plan as if it goes green. In most cases, you can't just bank on the caution giving you the strategy call. Sure. Unless you are really risking things as a driver or don't feel like you can get that to work on your strategy.
Think about someone like Alexander Van der Sant. We've seen his fuel strategy prowess before. He's back in 12th. Good spot to be running in the draft. saving the fuel. First caution of the race, first caution of the 2022 season comes to a close. It's still Alexis Newsom has led every single lap so far. That will lead us back to the green. The Omar's Kentucky 200, nice clean start at the front. Couple of cars going side by side, about 15th on back. But again, it's single file as you'd suspect. Looks like Connor Harrington may be coming under fire. Tyler Groff getting a great restart there.
Andrew Kinsella, a terrible 1 and 2, though, had a massive amount of air wash yet again, clipped the apron as well. And that just cost him a couple spots. Jay Brandt trying to take advantage. Everyone else, though, not able to close really too much up on the 41 yet.
Kinsella holds on there. Blocker might be having some technical issues racing from that hotel room. Keep an eye out for that. If he's being too much of a concern for those around him, he'll be asked by race control to drop to the tail end on the field. That might just be day done for Adam Blocker as Kraus is going to get past Graf. Here comes Blocker to have a look as well.
Now, right now, Graf trying to maintain some of those positions that we talked about that were valuable early on, but for Blocker, at least for this onboard, it's holding on for now from the hotel room. And we talked about the comfortability measures and comfortability levels of drivers in unique and new situations, or having to go to different situations to race in consistently and constantly. You have to be able to adapt if you want to truly perform for this championship. If you're Adam Blocker now, for now, Blocker's just doing what he needs to do. Run fairly well, try and get some solid points. He talked about that earlier on, remember, in the season.
Looking at a good battle for 13th, where we see Caleb Bensi in front of the likes of Dustin Warlow, Kite Bomersback, Lionel Kalisto, as they all cycle their way through the corner. Bomersback going to be on the outside of Kalisto, almost making it 3 wide. Kalisto was having a good run last time out on a slightly different tire strategy. Didn't work the way that he would have wanted it to go. He's going to be a little bit too tight down low. Bomersback's going to defend and go on the offense as well. The Candyman loses 1, going to lose 2 here as well.
Keep in mind, Bomersback was one of the top drivers. In fact, had the quickest time in practice in the 24-4s. So he's got some good pace here at this racetrack. It's just been a matter of getting himself to groupings like this, where you have battles such as Blocker and Graf. Blocker right
Look
there
at Van de Sande. Look at the line that Van de Sande's running here, JP.
Tried to run all the way to the top wall, and you talked about how that can burn a little bit more fuel. Maybe he's thinking, okay, that's the only spot I have to truly get clean air. May as well run the wall.
Yeah, I mean, if it works for you, it works for you. But in the immortal words, I think it was of Kyle Larson last year, I was trying to run the video game line. It turns out it works here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Larson didn't win that race, though. He
True.
still finished second.
That is...
It could work if the other car proceeds to slow down.
Well, he at least managed to get past Blocker, so that's a good thing. Kraus is in front of Jay Brandt as they squeeze each other up into the entry of turn number 1. The pink and black car rolls the momentum through the corner. Private label Team Hype of all 3 of their cars inside of the top 10. Good day for them so far in this team's championship presented by HyperX. Blocker outside of the top 10 once more. Battling further back, Tony Showen on the inside, down low on the New York native Andrew Marquez, who finds Matt Houston in that 66, closing out behind him.
That NHR machine, very quiet so far tonight. In fact, all those team members so far having themselves around the edges in about the top 20. For some of the drivers back here, you absolutely have to be thinking they're in the fuel save, because the pace, I've noticed, compared to last run, is about 2/10 slower for a majority of the drivers compared to this point in the first run before the caution came out. So the vast majority of the field is already thinking big picture here, while some of the race leaders are still running at full tempo.
Big shout out to Dougie Beard, who on short notice gave us a camera pack for today's legacy version of Kentucky. One of the few legacy layouts that will visit the retro series, for example, might visit a few more of the retro configurations of the tracks here on iRacing, but this is one of the few that we'll visit here. Go to Phoenix later on in the year. Commentated on an IndyCar race there this past Monday, JP, and I've got to say, I've never been more confused. What's turn 1, what's turn 3?
Remember, they switched the configuration of the circuit for current day Phoenix, where What used to be the exit turn 2 is now where essentially the start and finish line is at Phoenix Raceway. Turn 1 is what used to be turn 3. Turn 2 is what used to be turn 4. I believe they also adjusted a bit of the banking in what's now turns 3 and 4. So it's a bit of a different way you can handle the track, but it's also still the same major bones of the track. Outside of the moving of that start and finish line at Phoenix, in part with the sunshine in Arizona and making sure the fans stay in the shade compared to the previous configuration, having them right in the middle of the sunshine.
Still never been more confused. That's how I'll put it. Especially because the pace car pulls off on what is now old turn 4, new turn 2, and the leader can go there even though they don't get to start finish line until much, much later in the lap. Kinsella unable to affect the pass on Jason Brophy, slightly behind them. His teammate Alexander Van der Sande able to get on through on Tyler Graff. Looks like Blocker's been able to get through as well. He's up to 9th. Van der Sande +8 so far on the day, but not the biggest mover. That goes to the man in the 42, backing up his performance in the podium last year. Jason Galvin in that 42, JP, up 13 to 13th.
You mentioned in last year's run to the podium that he had worked the bars up and down, back and forth, as well as with the weight checker, and changed his line all throughout the night. He felt like it was kind of exhausting back in 2021. But that's the kind of person Jason Galvin is. He'll fight and work as hard as he can to try and make sure he's as quick as he can to be able to get himself some good positioning. For Galvin, it shouldn't be surprised to see him cutting ahead. It's just a matter of trying to figure out, if you're Jason, a way to get to the rest of the grouping and figure out how to close up that 6 seconds in terms of positioning.
12 months ago, he had to work himself up 23 positions. Similar kind of ball game for him here today. Kraus has gotten past his teammate Connor Harrington. Maybe some strategy games going on there. Kraus clearly has the speed. Look at how he's driving up to the back of the Canadian Andrew Kinsella. Big shout out as well to Kinsella's fiancée, who celebrated her birthday this past Monday. Had a nice night out just before this. Good way to get yourself in the mood for a bit of racing. Nice bit of dinner outside. It's good that we're able to do that again now, JP.
Absolutely, be able to go out, get some fresh air, be able to go to various locations, to be able to meet with friends. It's been a long time, to keep it simply, to put it simply. By the way, long advantage between second and third, already nearly 2 seconds. Newsom and Lechka to third just trying to run away from Pinheiro and the rest of the group who are still in massive fuel save mode.
Yeah, there's the visual gap. That might as well be a country mile as Van der Sande and Tyler Graff again will do battle with one another to stay inside of the top 10. Pinheiro's not in a great spot when it comes to the fuel saving though, JP. If you're Malechka, you must be pretty happy right now. Yes, you maybe aren't as deep in the pack as you'd like to be to try and do some fuel saving, but you know, net fuel game still looking pretty good, I think, for that number 91 car.
I think so, just staying within the draft and letting Newsom pull him around the racetrack in the power slide machine. Very smart calls, I think you have to really say. But I'm really still intrigued about what the 96 can pull out of the hat with what we've seen in the past. Here's a look at Newsom, meanwhile, who's still running 24.9s. Keep in mind, drivers like Pinheiro who have fresh air, like Brophy who is more than a second back, they're running 25.2s. A massive difference in philosophies here from front to back.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, bit of a surprise, if I'm being completely honest, that they've been able to break their way so far clear. Matthias Kraus will become the first car on track to be a lap down. One retirement, that's Luis Gonzalez Nunez. Barrett Rolfe has managed to roll it back out after spending a couple of times bringing it back down onto the lane for some damage repairs. He's 10 laps down. Joe Branch finds himself in a 28 car, 30 laps down. Not sure exactly what happened to him there, JP.
I believe he had a pit stop under green that had to get a wing change possibly on that machine. It was after the restart, within the first couple laps of it, in fact. So just not Joe Branch's night in a bit of a different look for the 28 machine. Can't confirm he did go up on the jacks and spend about an extra 20 or so seconds in the stall. Meanwhile, pink car versus green car. We also have multiple other battles between black and white colored cars with blue machines mixed in.
That's Bensi and Kalisto for what's 15th or so position. Kinsella holding off the private label duo behind him, at least for the time being, as they work themselves back down through the start-finish line for another trip around. 56 laps now on our board. And remember as well, JP, there's no rule about ducking below the yellow line here in Lionheart competition on the last lap. Now, you can't use it any of the other 133 laps of the race, but coming to the line, anything's fair game.
And that's come into play a couple times, remember, with drivers who knew that rule. Adam Blocker in particular comes to mind, where he nearly won and/or did win races in IndyCar competition several times because of him setting up that run to diamond it off of turn 4 to go below the yellow line. And if it comes down to a late race situation like that, might come into play yet again. By the way, Newsom has broken the draft from Malechka III. They are also now reaching lap traffic for the first time tonight.
There is the 1.3 second advantage that Newsom holds. At the front of the field, getting word that it was a bit of technical issues for Joe Branch and some contact with Michael O'Brien that's damaged his machine. Trying to cycle some sort of decent finish from this point forward in the race as we get closer and closer to the halfway marker of this race, JP. 30 laps on the run so far, about 10, maybe 15 laps away from seeing those first pit stops. The question will be, who can get to the magic number, lap 84?
Especially to make sure they can try and stretch it ahead. There were so many candidates that you can put it in the grouping. Jason Galvin's dropped it to the 5s. Bomber's Back's actually dropped it to 25.8s. A lot of competitors thinking about that. Paul Jenkins, if I just heard correctly, just called he is pitting from 31st, and he was one of the drivers who topped off. And another is also on the access road pitting.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Something's happened to Michael O'Brien there, as he's also a car into pit lane. Paul Jenkins the other, as JP mentions. Surprising call. Not sure what's going on there, to be completely honest.
I think I know with O'Brien. He hit the wall coming out of turn 2, lap 58. And I'm wondering if that damage, he realized, I can't hold on with this car. Elect to come in. In fact, he's got a meatball flag, Arjuna. That means require damage repairs from that slam in the wall.
So that explains the issue for, I believe, the New Zealand native, Michael O'Brien, who at least will have the opportunity tomorrow in the Lionheart Retro Series to go road racing at Watkins Glen. Join us Thursday evening, same time, same place, here live on RaceSpot TV. Let's go ahead and see if we can pick up what happened to O'Brien here as he rounds himself in towards turn 1. There you see Jenkins merging on the bottom corner of your screen. So watch O'Brien through the corner here. Looks okay, and then he's up into the wall, and that explains it, JP. Likely got some significant suspension damage from that little bit of contact.
He tried to keep going for a couple more laps, but then realized I have to come in to avoid a disqualification from the sim in itself. If you get a meatball flag, you have to come in for the mandatory repairs within the next 3 laps. Turned under green. Meanwhile, the battle for 16th. Few drivers continuing to try and stop the bleeding, so to speak. Caleb Bensi, 9th place starting spot, is back to 17th now.
It's a different kettle of fish when you're in dirty air than when you're running and qualifying foot to the floor, basically flat around this track. Bensi's unfortunately finding out the hard way what dirty air is going to feel like here at Kentucky. Bensi is 6th in the standings, been a good season for him so far. Not the biggest mover, though, is Jason Galvin. Tony Schowen, plus 17. You see him just at the tail end of the shot here. Closing bit by bit on Schowen. Gap at the lead, now up to 2 full seconds. I wonder what's going on here for Malechka.
Yeah, Malechka third, really backing off on the pace. Newsom has really started to turn down the speed, I've noticed. The past couple laps has gone 1/10 of a second slower than Malechka third. I'm wondering if Newsom's starting to consider the potential of the aero wash and is starting to get impacted by the traffic, but also if Malechka third's just trying to pace himself right now, knowing this gap will eventually close back up. A lot of tracks we've seen in the past, Arjuna, you get yourself involved in aero wash as the leader, that lead usually compresses quickly if you can't get trapped by traffic fast.
It's like a magic trick. It disappears. Looking backwards as Tyler Graf, I think, is going to come in this time by as well. Not sure why these cars need to come in. Is it likely more damage? Although, having said that, that car looks pretty good.
This has to be a strategy call I wonder if Graf's thinking, I can't make it to the end, split the race up into thirds, because at
Well-
this point, go 34-34. It's not the greatest call, obviously.
And, well, no, the other thing, JP, sorry to cut you off, but it's not like cars that are going, you know, Paul Jenkins, for example, they're not really going much faster than cars, you know, 40 laps into the run. Jason Galvin coming in this time by as well. I guess, yeah, you're right. They're conceding. They're admitting that they can't make it on the strategy. And remember, maybe Malechka is running to a fuel number right now. Maybe that explains why he's backing it down to a certain number that he knows he's got to hit.
There are several technical alliances across the sim that we know race the track rather than the competitors on circuit. Yes, it's great to be able to lead laps, get yourself some lead laps on the board, but also, if you hit your exact marker based on your preparation, it usually ends up working out in some cases. It's seen a special event action in the past, especially of late.
Gap closes by half a second. Newsom maybe backing it down more than Malechka, who was able to do the fuel saving earlier in the stint. Now gap down to 1.2. Newsom's coming in. Newsom electing to pit, and Malechka follows her in. Interesting call. Malechka locks up the tires, but I think got down to speed in time.
Well, that's interesting to say the very least, knowing their past history together. Van de Sant could only make it to 40. Who is going to be able to make it on 50 now is the huge question.
I think at this point, no one. It's as simple as that. Maybe Phil Kraus is in a good place, you know, having now been able to save a bit behind Kinsella, but again, he was charging pretty hard early doors. 71 laps into this race, we're past the halfway marker. I don't know.
Yeah, this is going to be really intriguing to see how this all plays out, because that ability to stretch it to about 50 to go could be a huge margin where you have about 35 seconds less you are spending down the pit lane, as well as about 5-10 seconds of the access roads to be able to get in and out of said lane. Hence why so many drivers are trying it, knowing that could be a huge make-or-break situation, especially if you're, say, amongst those who can stretch the furthest. You get a caution right before your window, you're golden, like we've seen in a couple of the speedway races this year.
Otis on pit road this time by, as there you can see, I believe that is Newsom just at the corner of your shot. Yeah, there she is with Malechka in tow. Gap 0.6 of a second rolling off a pit lane. Some puffs of smoke as I think Matthias Kraus was whirling his way onto pit lane. Bomber's back in this time by. 11 to go to make that magic number. I think it's too much of an ask for these cars. Pinheiro's coming in this time around.
Yep, Jason Brophy can't make it. That's a big sign as well. Kinsella's still trying to stretch it around. This is absolutely nerve-wracking, I think, for some of these competitors to try and go a little bit further. There's no way they're making it 84, Arjuna. It's pretty clear at this point.
Well, you can
a
also...
lot of these drivers have gone too far and too fast in some of these cases.
And you can see as well, it's cooled off, which is just going to grip up the track a little bit more, allow you the leeway to be full throttle for more of the lap. And so get past 5.
Oh, hold on. Pinheiro's had a spin on the pit lane. He is the wrong way around in the lane.
56 car with big issues, and that is still trying to get it spun around and into the box. That has cost him direly. Race 1 was out on track, race 2 was in the strategy, and from pole position he lost the chance to fight for victory in both of those cases today. It's a mistake down on pit lane for that number 56 car as they work their way off a pit road. It'll be a good indication now as to where the speed is in comparison to cars that have rolled out of pit lane a bit earlier. There's Newsom already now up to speed. Where's Kinsella in the gap? 6 and a bit seconds. Undercut works a treat here. I think we'll see a couple of changes. Jason Brophy getting a nice undercut on Kinsella and company.
By 4 seconds right now.
Tyler Graf getting a great undercut as well.
Yeah, if anything, Kinsella's going backwards all of a sudden. What is going on with Kinsella on the pylon here? Kinsella's falling back 3 spots in a lap.
Well, I think he was trying to get up to speed, JP. Galvin, Van der Sant, and Graft already have come down pit lane. There's some big deltas here. 10 laps for Graft and Galvin out on track already. Van der Sant's been out there for 7. Strategy and the situation out on track very fluid.
Mike Regney, the last of the drivers attempting to stretch it. Yeah, based on these marks, absolutely 2-stop at this point. You have That's why, and that makes much more clear some of the strategy calls there, potentially for those feeling like they couldn't go the full 100 or so. But now it becomes the major question mark of how this fares out for the last pit stop calls if it maintains green flag pacing here. Because Newsom and Malechka still have control of the tempo, but several others, depending on how the cautions may fly here, are in really good spots, like Jason Brophy, like Alexander Van de Sande, who picked up lots of spots in the cycle, and several others.
Let's take a look at what happened to Pinheiro, and I don't believe he's done this by himself, as we've seen sometimes in the past. I think there's going to be some contact here, potentially, with the Ascari Autosport machine, and indeed that's what happens. Unfortunate. Now, people will think that you can't have contact on pit lane in iRacing. That is not the case. There's a fast lane, there's a slow lane. The fast lane is where the contact can happen, and it's Bomber's back that unfortunately is the one that gets involved there.
Yeah, you have to get earlier down at that point, but at the same time, it was a tricky spot, Arjun, it looked like, because Bomber's back had that pit exit at the same time where you had Pinheiro have to find a way to get towards that left side lane to pull into his stall. You have to go into your stall eventually, you can't just pass it.
It's a two-horse race right now, JP, though. Newsom and Malechka, 5.5 seconds clear of the rest of the field.
They've absolutely had some dominating pace throughout the race, and similar to what we've seen in Speedway competition, when we had long runs like this, you put them 1-2 in a line, they'll likely run away from the pack, and they've been able to absolutely dominate on the speed charts all night long. 6-second buffer for those two over the rest of the field.
53 laps to go in the third round of the Lionheart IndyCar Series. Omar's Kentucky 200. You're watching RaceSpot TV and ESTV, where Newsom and Malechka lead the way. The last third of the race coming up right after this.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Welcome back to RaceSpot TV and Sparta, Kentucky, where we're live with the third round of the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series presented by Butt Kicker. It's the Omar's Kentucky 200, and two drivers have scampered away from the rest of the field to put themselves in a great chance of making it 9 races, 9 unique winners. Hello everyone, my name is Arjuna Kenkipati. Alongside in the commentary box, as always, is the one, the only Justin Princeton. JP, what are we thinking about this race? Very similar to what we saw in the Lionheart Speedway Series last time they were at Kentucky in 2021.
The pace is similar to Newsom and Letchka III. Those two were able to run away from the pack early on in what went fully green flag to checkered that night. Yes, we've had cautions this evening, but those two have maintained that respectability, but also that consistency to be able to outpace the field, whether it's been in the aero wash of lap traffic, and especially when they've been in clean air. With the tides from fluctuating with Jason Brophy on back, Newsom has made it clear she wants a chance to win tonight at Kentucky.
Some fighting going on behind them as Kraus gets in front of Van der Sant. You have Kinsella with a line of Graf, Kraus, and Galvin all behind him. Blocker slipped back to 12th. Undercut really worked nicely, JP. But the thing to remember now is maybe the cars that undercut before will get even more of an undercut later on as we get to that final cycle of the race.
I don't think necessarily the undercut's going to be the winning move compared to some of the others who have built up some big buffers on circuit. But for a lot of the drivers, I think they're in a decent spot. Jason Galvin comes to mind with plus 20 now of the night. Remember, he was at the edges of the top 10 before the pit cycle. He's lost a spot or two since then, but he is amongst those who's really benefited from going very early on the undercut compared to those who try to stretch at fresh tires. On the flip side, the drivers on the much fresher tires can have much better grip to be able to try and make passes, since a lot of the cases, they're battling against drivers who are outside of that 5-lap buffer zone in terms of tire fall off.
Take a look at the left side of your screen where you find the movers, you find the shakers, and of note is Jason Galvin. He's not the biggest mover by any means, but he's the most significant of the movers. 12 months ago, he came to Kentucky, moved himself up 23 positions to a podium spot. If he gets to the podium this time, well, guess what? 23 positions gained. Deja vu for Galvin. He's still got some work to do there. I think best that he's really hoping for, if we go caution-free, is going to be a 4th place finish, but at least for now concedes to Phil Kraus, who gets around the outside, nicely times that move to roll the momentum off the exit of turn 2, and the pink and black that won to kick off the season worked his way into 6th.
He's continuing to pick them off one by one. Had a bit of struggles early on, yes, Philip Kraus did, but Kraus has just been able to try and make sure he's around that top 5. Good exit, though, to try and get the diamond, get himself that run for turn 3.
We're seeing, I think, some tire differential starting to play a factor here. Kraus has 9 laps fresher tires than Galvin behind him, and even Graf behind him as well. No Alexander Van der Sant, who's only got a 3-lap advantage to the likes of Graf and Galvin, struggling a little bit more. Might we see the likes of Connor Harrington work his way forward? In fact, no, because Jay Bront is going to play a bit of a troublemaker here for the private label Team Hype. And the 15 machine down low, trying to sweep his way past into 9th spot.
Looking like trying to clear things. Found us into the grass.
Big bobble, big save. Not for the first time today, and Alexander Van der Sant is going to be hoping and praying he doesn't have any damage to that 96 machine.
Looked like he was mainly trying to keep off of Jason Galvin off of turn 4 there, Arjun, in the backdrop. He got very close to pulverizing the side pod of the Thumbs Up Cancer Down machine.
Let's go ahead and take a look at what happened then on your RaceSpot TV replay. So Galvin goes up high, and you can see Van der Sant just trying to run the momentum all the way up to the outside and try and get a look on board with Van der Sant here, except, excuse us, the replay machine's not working perfectly. We'll have another look at it in a couple of moments' time.
Either way, when it comes to that, Van der Sant's going to lose a fair bit of ground because of that mistake coming off the corner. He did say in sim, I'm going for first. Unfortunately, he's now in 10, 16 seconds back. That's very hard to do from 10.
Yeah, you can't even go for first, though, from 7. Just watch here. So he's basically painting that yellow line. You see Galvin slow his roll. Whoa, I even heard a little bit of contact there between the two.
I'll say this, they're both lucky that it didn't involve even worse contact than that, if anything, with how tight it got. So now it's just a matter of make sure you get back into rhythm. Don't let that stew. Don't let that snowball. If you let it snowball, And everybody else will take advantage, and potentially you end up getting involved with one of them to the point of disaster.
Into the final cycle of pit stops, Paul Jenkins becomes the first to pit like he was last time by. Of note as well, the leaders separated by 1.6 seconds now. I think if you're Malechka, you need the undercut to try and work here to close that advantage to get your way to the front.
I think so at this point too, because Malechka the third in particular have noticed struggled a bit more in the traffic this run. Newsom been near picture perfect in regards to some of that traffic management. Be able to build up that buffer, and you see how crazy some of this traffic management is getting to the point where some drivers are taking others 3 wide, trying to get themselves that positioning because they know how valuable that clean air can be to run away from everybody else in the trains.
Well, take a look at the replay here. I think something actually happens to Lionel Kalisto. So he rolls it through. Oh, he's loose. Oh, he's all sorts of crossed up. Another great display of car control in this race. He's got to look on board and watch the hands once more.
Yeah, you can see similar situation right there. Just was able to get it quickly to lock up a touch bit on the brakes. That is a way some drivers in sim race in particular are able to straighten out the car. If they hit the brakes at the right mark, that can potentially keep them straight ahead on the nose instead of swinging the car fully around into circles.
Maybe not as spectacular as what we saw with Chris Fowler, but still 10 out of 10 on the save there.
Yeah, absolutely. Malechka the third going for the undercut call, and it looks like the 91 has decided, if I'm going to win this race and beat Alexis Newsom, I have to do something different. That's what Malechka the third is trying to see if this is going to work.
Are we entirely surprised? I don't think we really are. Take a look at where Newsom is. Does she respond this time? No, she'll stay out there. That might be crucial to give Malechka the chance to close. Up on the jacks he goes for the final time today. Less than 30 laps to go in this race. Nice and smooth pit stop for him. 8 seconds on the nose in that box.
Jacob Oster on the box for Alexis Newsom tonight. If I'm Jacob, I'm doing those calculations quickly, seeing how big the fall difference has been for those taking the tires compared to those who have stayed on the racetrack. And basically, if you are in a comfortable spot, like Newsom's been for much of the run, you do those calculations and figure out if how long you can fully stay out if you want to do that. Or you try and follow up right now with Alexis Newsom, get a couple lap fresher tires, try and pass back if it comes to it.
Jason Galvin has also visited pit lane for the final time. Here comes Newsom. Bit of a locking of the left front as she slows down to pit lane, but no harm, no foul. Nice and tidy. Newsom into the box for the final time.
And just has to make sure the stall is taken in nice and cleanly as well. You mentioned it with the 8 seconds in the lane for the previous stop when it came to Malechka the third. A similar fuel gamble has to be taken. She doesn't need a full tank at this point. Just needs about 25 laps in the tank, if not a little bit extra, to just have that buffer to save that extra precious second or so in the pit lane compared to the full fuel load. There it is, 8.1.
She's still limited by the amount of time it takes to put the tires in, and you can see as Newsom gets off the limiter, she's got to run on the access road. Malechka's already up to speed. Newsom might be in front, but again, the tires where they need to be. The speed on the side of Malechka, who's actually got the race lead for the first time today. Newsom not the net race leader.
And that is huge. That is huge. You have to wonder if that was one lap too late on the pit call. If Newsom was able to respond the previous lap, we might be talking about a side-by-side battle for the race lead through the traffic.
And crucially, while they're in the danger zone right now, a yellow flag might trap them one lap down. They're on the back of actual race leader Jason Brophy. You can see the delta between the speed. Brophy's coming down to pit, but look at how around the outside Malechka rockets on past.
A little bit tight as well. Keep in mind, as a result of the 3 wide on that entry mark, few of the other drivers right in front of these race leaders are calling they need to pit this time by or want to pit. So they're going to have to keep their eyes open, make sure they're able to listen to their spot calls, because if they end up mishearing one thing or misreading one thing, it could end up being some trouble. By the way, cross the leader now.
Kinsella has pitted a while ago. He's been out there for almost 3 laps now, trying to get the undercut working on those he was fighting on Brophy as well. Big puff of smoke. Now, was that drama or are we good? I think we're good. Question will be, has the undercut worked to punch Kinsella back into a podium position? He's tucked up behind his teammate, getting a bit of draft. It's not going to be as close as it was with Malechka and Newsom, but you can see the gap has shrunk. Kinsella's in with a chance here.
Kinsella's in a comfortable spot here. Still not in range for the race lead, yes. Right now, Newsom and Malechka are about 13 seconds up the road. But for Kinsella, he can keep the tempo up, keep himself within the range of Jason Brophy, find a way to get around the 88 machine. In a similar battle to last year, it could be intriguing to see how it plays out for that spot. Keep in mind, it's a little bit different compared to last year. Kinsella's on older tires compared to some of those trying to reel on in.
Here's Malechka at front of the field with about a second back to Newsom with 20 to go, 19 this time by. 3 laps difference on the tires. We saw back in the field with dirty air. That's not a huge factor, JP, but you never know if these cars manage to find some clean air once this final cycle is complete. Those 3 laps could be the difference between victory for either of these drivers.
Yeah, that 1 second is going to be very, very important for Newsom to try and find a way to close up. Right now, just outside the drafting range. The main thing, if you're Newsom, try and maximize any potential traffic holdups you could factor in. Because if you end up getting held up for too long behind a lap car, that could potentially cost you at least 2 or 3 laps of work to be able to try and catch up based on the intervals. More cars are pitting in front of them, though. Probably Sexton will take that bottom line away for this corner.
Kraus, Brandt, Blocker, Wardlow, Sexton. The 5 yet to pit as a couple will peel on in. That's Wardlow, that's Sexton. Let's talk about Blocker for a second here, JP. It's the challenge that he's going to have to deal with this season. Last year, there were only 3, maybe 4 races that he had to run not at home. But with the schedule that he's got in 2022, 3 races, already 2 of them not from his home base. And you can see he's still doing well, but you struggle when you don't have that familiarity with the gear around you. Remember as well, he's racing from a small laptop screen rather than the virtual reality that he's used to.
I think that's the bigger of the two, is if you're running on a small laptop screen, first of all, how powerful is said laptop? Because if you're, say, running 10 frames per second, yes, I've done that before when I first started, it's very dangerous, to say the least, for your competitors to drive around you, and very hard to hit your marks correctly. But if it's a very powerful one, you may be able to mitigate some of that. But there's a reason so many drivers prefer a triple monitor setup compared to a single monitor one. Because you have more visibility to look around.
The traffic's going to play a factor. Does Malechka go defensive? He does at the last minute. Teammates in 2021 battling for the lead here. Malechka will chop the nose off of both the Ascari Autosport machine and Alexis Newsom, but fighting for the lead side by side. 15 to go, excuse me.
This time coming to 14 to go, and Malechka the third has to try and play a bit of defense. They have drivers on fresher tires behind, also trying to reel in. Here comes the run for Newsom.
Has the momentum, sweeps down low, and I think punches her way back to the point. Malechka doesn't fight that one back. If it's going to change around again, it will change around with the traffic.
Lionel Kalisto, exhibit A potentially of that. Malechka the third, though, clipped the apron trying to send it.
Oh! Into Kalisto, and does that bring out a caution? Yes, it does. Second one of the day, and it's because Malechka and Newsom were fighting so hard, and Malechka pushed it just that little bit too much.
Tried to really send it to the yellow line, went too low against the yellow line, and now battle for the race lead just took a massive turn here. It comes down to a few lap shootout once more.
Now, do you pit
JP?
Boy.
If you're some of the drivers the back in the lead lap, why not? The fresh tires have proven that even with the air wash, you have more grip to be able to make some moves if you choose the right line. If you're some of the others like Philip Kraus, absolutely not. If anything, Kraus is in the prime spot. He's got 10 lap fresher tires than these drivers now.
Now, Kalisto was a lap down. You're allowed to fight to get your lap back, but I'm not trying to blame him at all here. I think the blame is quite clearly all on that man down low. He was trying to get some clean air, but he was precluded from going up high where maybe he would have wanted to be. He had to go down low, had to go low enough to get clean air. And chain reaction, it's Kalisto that loses out here. As here comes Malechka to pit, I wonder if he's got some damage.
I would think so, possibly to the front nose somewhere, either on the side or whether that's around the very edge of the nose in of itself. This takes Molechka III right out of contention here. Tower Graf, Jason Galvin also electing to put on fresh boots. Van de Sant, who had that moment a while ago, also electing to pit. Everybody else, it looks like, taking the track position game. 12 cars on the lead lap. I still think Philip Kraus is in probably some of the best position yet of anybody, with up to 10 lap fresher tires than everybody else on the track right now.
That call to stay out might just be the call that helps Kraus win for the second time this season. Molechka has... Sorry, go ahead.
The big thing with Kraus, he had pit a lap or two earlier. He just stayed on the lead lap. He doesn't end up being on the lead lap. We're talking about Newsom being in a better of the spots, if anything, with the track position. Not so much now with Kraus in fourth.
Molechka had to wait because pit exit was closed. Some lapped cars between Newsom and Jason Brophy, who inherit second because we are not under 10 to go. Those lap cars will stay where they are.
Hearing EOL for the 91 for that situation, which would shuffle Molechka to the back end.
Well, it's a good... Sorry, JP, I just realized only 12 cars are still on the lead lap.
It's still a decent position starting-wise, but essentially would take him out of contention to battle higher than 12.
Right, which, so, I mean, damage, yes, not as bad as it could have been.
Yeah, indeed. But this race is about to get very wild, to say the very least, how things could play out here. You have a couple try to at least consider the wave. They aren't going to get said wave now. And it looks like, based on the numbers, we'll get 10 to go when the lights go off, Arjuna. That will shuffle the lap cars back regardless. But the thing is, with the EOL, does that mean Molechka III has to start behind the lap
So,
cars?
wait. Sorry, JP. I don't think we're going to get the lap traffic dropping back here. Because I think it only happens when you start, when the caution comes out with 10 to go.
Good point. Either way, regardless, this is still a tough spot for Molechka III for this race the rest of the way. This battle for the race lead, it's about to get the most intense of the entire night because the fresh tire differential, and you have drivers 8th on back on very fresh rubber now on top of things. Jay Brandt, Tower Graf, Jason Galvin, Alexander Van de Sant, and Edwards Arjuna. It could go either direction here. Newsom's got the track position, the clean air potential to work with, but everybody else, it could get wild. And the traffic you mentioned there too, there's a lot of cars where if they don't drop back, that's an extra couple seconds to work with.
So, couple of things to note. Jason Brophy, 1.5 back. There you can see about 6 cars, 5 cars between him and Newsom. Kinsella's right behind him, but then Phil Kraus is, I think, 4 or maybe 5 cars between him and Brophy. Oh, no, never mind. We're getting them cycled back.
That's what I thought. We got the 10 to go. That means there's the trigger for the lap cars to drop back. So that takes out that part of the equation. But you still have the equation of, if you're, say, Philip Kraus, you got to find a way to...
He's in the driver's seat. He's in the driver's seat now.
You got to find a way to pass Brophy and Kinsella quickly. You can't afford to diddle-daddle.
Brophy's not going to be a factor. Brophy's a teammate. He knows that the chance for victory is on Kraus's shoulders. Private label team hype. 3 cars in the top 5.
Huge night potentially for the team. About a year or so ago, they got their first victory in Lionheart IndyCar Series competition at this racetrack. Can they do it again, Arjun, is the biggest question, I think, on some of their minds right now.
9 to go in this race. Molechka is out of the chance to fight for a second career Lionheart IndyCar Series win. It's Newsom, it's Brophy, it's Kinsella. Phil Kraus has the tires. Phil Kraus has 9 laps to make it 2 of 3 in 2022. Green flag flies. We're racing to the end here at Omaha's Kentucky 200. Nice start from Newsom. Able to get a couple of separation, a car length separation back to Jason Brophy. Great start from Kinsella, who's rocketed down the inside of Jason Brophy.
Jason Brophy didn't get a good start at all. In fact, Brophy, though, wants the spot back. Thought better against it, knowing the chance of losing ground to Newsom if they fought.
We've seen Newsom pull away, but I don't think she's going to have that opportunity this time around. 8 to go. Look at Kinsella close. Kinsella's won here once before. He wants to become the first to win twice here at Kentucky.
It's been a couple years for Kinsella. This is his best chance. Here he goes.
Brophy lets Kraus pass. Kinsella to the inside and to the lead. Andrew Kinsella leads for the first time today. He's got 7 laps to go to hold off Newsom and Kraus behind, side by side across the stripe.
Kraus is in the popcorn seat, though, has the draft from both of them. Kinsella the preferred line on the bottom. Newsom can get the run off the corner to slide back inside.
And she's going to do that, cuts down aggressively to the inside of the Canadian. She's now going to take the race lead, but look who's closing in the mirrors bit by bit. Phil Kraus lurks menacingly. It's Phil Kraus's race to lose, but he's got to find a way up front.
Needs to find a way to gain another 10th or 2 at least to be able to be in the true shot to make a move. Coming up to 5 to go this time. Kinsella trying to do the same thing again. Newsom being a bit more aggressive though in the block.
She's not going to give any space that she doesn't have to give. And dirty air crucially being given to Phil Kraus. Maybe some good gamesmanship from Kinsella. Remember, you can duck below the yellow line, but the closest ever finish here at Kentucky in the 8 races before is over a 10th of a second. We've never seen a photo finish. Could this be the year? 5 to go this time around.
Coming up to 4, side by side down the backstretch. Kraus trying to diamond it from the very top and get some clean air for the run off 4.
Look how close they're racing for the lead. Kinsella not getting the option to try and duck down below. Here comes Kraus's momentum. 4 laps to go. Kinsella still stuck up high. Kraus runs up to the 4th groove.
Newsom trying to make history. Kinsella looking for his first victory since the season finale in 2020. Kraus, though, looking to carry the momentum forward. Kinsella in a good spot to get the run off the corner, but Kraus is in even a better spot. Here comes the diamond.
But look at the momentum Kinsella was able to get. Further distance, though, means that Newsom gets an opportunity. Kraus splits the difference. 3 wide for the race lead. And Philip Kraus, fresh tires, has managed to rip away the chance of victory for Alexis Newsom and Philip Kraus. 3 laps to go. Kinsella looks down low, trying to get to the inside of Kraus.
Kinsella got too much aero wash, got way too tight. Kraus just needs to pull away. 2 to go.
3 miles left to decide the OMA's Kentucky 200. We're looking at 9 races, 9 different winners. Kraus versus Newsom to the checkered flag.
Newsom still in a good spot with the slipstream. Kraus knows he has to block.
Kraus have the tires started to give up. He was riding in the dirty air for so long. White flag flies. We're racing back to the line this time around. Kraus searches for a second victory of 2022. Searches for redemption for the mistake on the streets of Long Beach 7 days ago. Dives it down low on the yellow line, and Phil Kraus trying to duck and dive, snakes his way to break the toe. Newsom goes back up high, and we run ourselves out of turn 3, out of turn 4 for one final time, but it's 2 in 3 for Phil Kraus in 2022. Newsom tries to fight it, but Phil Kraus wins the OMA's Kentucky 200 to make it this now his 10th victory, his 3rd victory in Lionheart IndyCar Series. What a dramatic race that was. We thought the new tires were going to be the factor. It was a little bit harder than we thought, and that's full credit to Alexis Newsom for pushing Phil Kraus all the way to the end.
Newsom did a stellar job to try and fight when Kraus used those fresh tires to close up with some of the slipstream, but also have that confidence to take it 3 wide into turn 1. He's seen his chance to take the lead. He took that chance, and now he gets burnout time. To say the very least, tonight finished out in fantastic fashion for Kraus in particular. That caution came in the right spot for him to be able to take this checker.
It's the 15th closest finish in Lionheart IndyCar Series competition. What a race it was. Just 2 cautions, our first 2 cautions of the season. And it's Phil Kraus burning it down in HyperX Victory Lane. Let's take a look at our unofficial race results after 134 laps. Look at that margin. 3.5 hundredths of a second. Alexis Newsom misses out on her 2nd career victory. It's Phil Kraus celebrating, not for the 3rd, but for the 4th time a winner in the Lionheart IndyCar Series. Andrew Kinsella, round of applause. Finally gets the monkey off his back, gets the podium to start off the beginning of this campaign. He'll be delighted, holding off the likes of Jason Brophy by 1/4 of a 10th of a second. Jay Brandt, Connor Harrington, Jason Galvin, 19 positions gained for him. Great drive. Alexander Van der Sat, Ryan Otis, and Tyler Gruff through the top 10. Tony Schowen, another one of our big movers, 24 positions gained from his starting spot down, mired in the midst of the middle of the top 30. Robert Malechka down in 12th after that incident to bring out the final caution of the day. Adam Blocker, first car on not the lead lap. Recovery drive for him after not racing at home, racing on a laptop with a wheel and pedal set he doesn't even own. I guess that's the bare minimum that he could have asked for. Mitchell Riggs, Caleb Bensi, Mike Rigney, Andrew Marquez, AJ Musselman, Matt Houston, and Dustin Wardlow complete the top 20. Good day for Mike Rigney, 15 positions gained for him. Bradley Sexton, Matt Taylor, Stefan Larkamp, Paul Jenkins, Alex Guyon, Chris Lanini, Adam Frazier, and Adriano Pinheiro and Chris Fowler complete the 29 cars that cycled themselves at least on the 1 lap down marker. Adriano Pinheiro, after that mistake on pit lane, that incident on pit lane, will be heartbroken. He's had the pace in qualifying, just not the luck in the race just yet. Kite Bombers back in 30th with Matthias Kraus, Barrett Rolfe, Lionel Kalisto, Michael O'Brien, Joe Branch, and Luis Gonzalez Nunez, the 36 cars in our field here today. At the end, when all things were said and done, we did have 32 cars making it to the end of this race. And that leads us nicely into our HyperX post-race show, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary Ultra Comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. And the 15th closest finish in Lionheart IndyCar Series history. And on the right side of the checkered flag is Phil Kraus, 2 of 3 in 2022, Phil. On that final restart, you were the one with fresh tires. The onus was on you, but how difficult was it for you to get your way to the front?
Honestly, it's even with the fresh tires, it's always really difficult when the 2 cars ahead of you have clean air, and they can kind of dictate the lines. Like with the way Alexis and Andrew were racing each other, sometimes Andrew had to enter a bit higher, and to specifically turn 3, probably higher than he wanted to, and that was giving me a bit of dirty air. So I honestly didn't think I'd have a shot with about, I think it was like 5 laps to go, because usually in turn 3 he was washing up that half lane extra, and it was really killing any chance of a run I had. But one of those laps, I was able to hook up a run, and the rest was history, pretty much.
15th closest finish in Lionheart IndyCar Series history, so indeed it was history. Let's talk now a little bit about the start to this campaign, Phil. I mean, everyone's trying to beat Adam Blocker, who's really having to dictate, or struggle and compromise with the amount of races that he's going to be doing away from home. But regardless of that, you've got the pace, you've got the consistency inside of the podium, inside of the top 2 in all 3 of our races to get things started. You're on the roll. What more do you need heading to our first Triple Crown of the season at Pocono in a week and a half's time?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'd die for some more luck like that, but I'll probably be racing on phone Wi-Fi for Pocono, so honestly, I'm just hoping it'll be strong enough to, not have me be a warping bomb the whole race and have to drop out. So we'll see what happens. Middle of the move, so.
It's been a great start to the campaign for the private label Team Hype. Again, you have 3 of your cars inside of the top 6. What's the key for you guys to work so cohesively amongst the 3 of you?
Yeah, I can't say enough about the private label Team Hype guys. They really helped me out. Jason and Connor. Jason definitely has a lot more time than me to drive now, since I work Monday through Thursday, and I come home like hour and a bit before the race on Wednesday nights. So he's probably been the backbone of the team so far this season. He's just had the most time to test, figure out what we can run with these what's the word I'm looking for? The adjustable settings in the car.
There we go.
Yeah, sorry, my brain's kind of it's not working too well tonight. But yeah, big shout out to Jason and Andrew Wood. He came in to give us some fuel numbers at the start, which ended up not mattering because of the early caution. But big shout out to him as well. Really good group. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Do you know anything about the IndyCar, Phil? What are these adjustable tools you speak of?
I don't know. I'm not sure. They adjust something in the car, but I couldn't tell you. I think one says ARB, but I don't know what that means. Do you?
Thanks for being a good sport, Phil. Congratulations on your 2nd win of the season, 4th in your Lionheart IndyCar Series career. Best of luck on cell service, I guess, at Pocono for our first Triple Crown of the season.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks for another great show, guys.
Phil Kraus, what a drive it was, but Alexis Newsom just missing out on her 2nd career Lionheart IndyCar Series victory. Justin Prince is standing by with Alexis.
Alexis, heartbreak for you tonight. 108 laps led, but in the end can't lead the final one. Talk us through that fight to the end with about 9 laps to decide it here at Kentucky.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's a good finish. I'd be lying if I wasn't disappointed. Really didn't need that last caution. Phil's tires were quite a bit newer than mine, I think. So, there wasn't a whole lot I could do to hold him off. Like, I couldn't even pinch him down at the end because I just kept sliding up. So, yeah, it was a good race, and congrats to Phil, and good race to Andrew and Rob, too. Wish it was victory, but can't complain too much.
Yeah, it seemed like a wild night when it comes to the pace. How did you end up having that strong pace in your opinion? Because we've seen it in Speedway last year with you and Malechka III, that ability to break away by 6+ seconds. It repeated itself tonight to each of the long runs before the caution started to fly.
Oh, it's just taking advantage of the dirty air pit order, and like usually once we get far enough that they can't feel the air that much, they'll start fighting with each other, and that's usually when we start pulling away more. And then the lap traffic comes in, more dirty air. Eventually, if we just nail our stops, we just end up pulling away. But like, I wasn't that great in traffic, so like if I'd gotten stuck back there, I probably wouldn't have done much.
Well, congratulations on the podium tonight, Alexis. 2nd place at Kentucky.
Yeah, thank you. Good night.
And that's Alexis Newsome, 2nd spot, Arjuna.
Rounding out the podium is our own Andrew Kinsella. Qualifying actually went well this time around. Andrew, you finally built a setup that you can race well with.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I screwed up at the end. Didn't catch Phil's run quite right, and then got in between Alexis and I. But yeah, had a really fast car today. Really liked how it drove. Could put it anywhere. We were saving massive amounts of fuel that first stint before the first yellow came out, just to see what we could do to shorten the race a little bit, because once the 2 leaders sort of got out front, we weren't going to be able to get by them. So just went into fuel save mode, dropped back about 5th or 6th there. But once we could sort of go full throttle, had a lot of speed, just played it slightly wrong at the end, and ended up with 3rd, but got to be happy with that.
Did you ever think, or were you thinking on that last restart, that tires were going to help Phil? Because he was saying that if you had clean air, the 2 leaders, it was always going to be tough, and it was the forced move of him making it 3 wide that I think really hurt you when all things were said and done.
Yeah, so when he went 3 wide, I got a little bit of side wash from him, and it just made me lift. So it basically got me out of position, and then when he came down in front of me, that was when I knew it was done. And I sort of put myself into the box because Alexis was up there and I had this big run, so I had to try and take it and see whether he would cover off Alexis or cover off me, and he covered off me, so lost all my momentum there. But yeah, it was definitely a case where I think that staying out was the right call there. The tires, you have basically probably, I'd say, about a 6-lap grace period with the tires before they go back to just like falling right off the cliff to back where they were when the pressures and the heat come in. But for those first 6 laps, they were really nice. They were basically just like brand new tires. We were racing wheel to wheel, Alexis and I, and it was great racing and just a lot of fun.
500 miles at Pocono next time out. What should we expect? It's always a tough race, but when you add that sort of mileage to a race as well, it really does change the way that you approach it.
Yeah, well, and Pocono is always a little bit of a special case because you got the basically you can pit without losing a lap if you're close enough to the leader, so it really introduces some different pit strategies that are possible. And I think between that and the fact that these cars really seem to have a lot of draft capabilities at Pocono, where you can really get a run down either the front straight or down Long Pond, I think it should be a really good race. Really, it's going to be really cerebral, really technical, and the drivers are going to have to be on their toes.
We're going to be watching if you back up this qualifying performance, Andrew. No pressure. No pressure. Congratulations on the podium, and go off and celebrate with your fiance.
And yeah, just quickly, happy birthday to my lovely fiance, Sophia.
Oh, we mentioned that as well. Don't worry. Go off and celebrate. So that brings to an end our post-race interviews. And, well, JP, I mentioned it before. Special presentation of RaceBot TV Round 4. Our first of the Triple Crowns will go to Pocono on April 16th, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Expecting some fuel strategies, that's what Andrew's saying, but I think surviving is just going to be enough for a lot of these competitors.
I think so, because as we've seen at Pocono in the past, slipstream and speed absolutely critical, especially when it comes down that front straightaway, but also being able to manage the tires, get yourself in the right strategy. We've seen always be a critical part of Lionheart IndyCar Series competition. But when it comes to Pocono, it's put on some fantastic finishes in various parts of its history across the Lionheart schedule. And it's going to be interesting how things play out at one of the original Triple Crown tracks in open wheel racing in the United States and across North America.
3 races to kick off this Lionheart IndyCar Series in March. Just 2 in April, 3 in May, and then a couple spread out then to keep our season rolling on. But with that said, it is time for us to wrap things up here live on RaceBot TV. What a race! The Omas Kentucky 200 was another showstopper in the Lionheart IndyCar Series, and it couldn't happen without the support of people like Butt Kicker. You're passionate about sim racing, but it always feels a little flat compared to the feeling of driving a real car. Now you can actually feel what it's like to drive a race car. Butt Kicker haptic hardware and software are easy to install and let you feel every bump in the track, slip of your tire, and engine redline. The tactile feedback is so accurate and realistic, you'll be driving faster and having more fun than ever before. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makes a premier gaming gear like the ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com.
Next Level Racing is an industry-leading cockpit and motion simulator manufacturer devoted to creating the most immersive experience possible for the global sim racing community. Take your racing to the next level and visit www.nextlevelracing.com.
Moser Racing is revolutionizing sim racing with the development of industry-leading hardware and software products like their R9 direct drive wheelbase and GS steering wheel. Featuring zero-delay wireless technology and made from high-end materials, Moser Racing delivers the precision you need to reach victory lane.
Gomez Sim Industries are makers of high-end esports equipment and controls. Precision built using nothing but the best materials available today. Passion and handmade craftsmanship drive each made-to-order build, creating the driving experience like no other. Visit GomezSimIndustries.com.
And it's not just them, but so many more that make it all happen. To learn more about the partners of the Lionheart Racing Series or the 3 competitions the Lionheart sanctioning body puts on, visit LionheartRacingSeries.com. We'll be back tomorrow. Lionheart Retro Series, the first road race of the year. We go to upstate New York for the Butt Kicker Grand Prix of the Glen. That race and every race live on RaceBot TV and rebroadcast on ESTV. So join us on Thursday evening, March 31st at 10:05 p.m. Eastern, 7:05 p.m. Pacific. But for now, until April 16th, the drivers in the Lionheart IndyCar Series get a break. Next time, it's 500 miles, Triple Crown, double points. Everyone wants to win when we go to the Tricky Triangle, but it's Phil Kraus, 2 of 3 in 2022. His charge to prevent Adam Blocker from making it 5 titles in a row is well and truly on the roll down the hill. For now, though, on behalf of everyone at RaceBot TV, for Dougie Beard providing our cameras, for ATVO powering our graphics and timing, for live timing powered by Timing 71, my name is Arjuna Kankipati, joined by the ever-wonderful Justin Prince. What a race that we've just had. The 15th closest finish in Lionheart history. We'll be back April 16th. And will we see an even closer finish? You'll have to join us to find out, but it's Phil Kraus celebrating in HyperX Victory Lane. We'll see you next time for Lionheart Competition.